What's up, everybody? I hope everybody is well. Hope you're doing great. And all that. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff, and all that. So I wanted to give a continuation of the talk where I talked about masculinity in the Captain America situation there. By that I mean Anthony Mackie, when he was praising, or at least acknowledging, that masculinity seemed to be something that was dying here in the U.S., and praising American masculinity and trying to instill that in his boys. And I listened to it again because I did the editing for it. And I listened to it again. And I thought about something different, picked up on something different. And I being an academic, right, I would be remiss if I didn't, talk about the other side of it, and what people want to try to label as a negative side of masculinity. And there is some research. I gotta be honest about that, about what masculinity can do when it is too much. I'll play the video here and we'll dig into it.
No, ma'am, they will always say thank you. They will always say yes, sir. In the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open a door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. Mm-hmm. You make sure these doors are locked every night, this alarm is on, you text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, motherfucker climb through the window, that money means nothing.
Right.
You can have all the celebrity in the world, motherfucker jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing.
Yeah.
So you got to have a little guard in there, and so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different. You feel it when you go to Europe. Like you see these and you're like, could bust your ass, boy. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You go to Europe.
Tight ass pants.
Yeah, tight ass pants. Motherfucker, what's good, boy? You better lotion your ankle. Like you feel it when you go to Europe. Even when I was just in Kenya and I was walking around, I'm like, yeah. Dude was like, you ain't from here. Like, nah. Yeah, I could tell. I know you can. I could tell I ain't from here. You know what I mean? It's just that American male masculinity is something I think is very important for boys. Because now our little boys are afraid to fail, so they don't try. In the past 20 years,
All right, so first to be obvious is I'm not talking about any type of toxic masculinity, whatever that would be. And by that I mean, overly aggressive, domineering, angry, so stoic that you don't talk to anyone. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. And yet, or I'm not talking about being that type of person. When I give my talk about Anthony Mackie in his presentation, I'm not talking about that type of presentation at all. I'm talking about the opposite, and that is the leadership qualities, the stand on your ground qualities, the stand up for yourself, to speak your mind, to show leadership, to show assertiveness in the right time circumstances. And even, yes, sometimes knowing when to be in a situation and knowing when to get out of a situation, right? I'm talking about those types of qualities. Now, Anthony Mackie, when he talked about, when he was speaking, giving his interview, he talked about his time going to Europe, and he talked about his time going to Kenya, and noticing the way that the males there, presented themselves. And he praised the type of American masculinity. And I'm not going to give a full in-depth idea here, but you got to understand where American masculinity comes from. American masculinity comes from this rugged individualism, this idea we can, as Americans, mostly from the European Americans, can go over, dominate the continent, enslave people, move people out of their territory. There's a manifest destiny to what we're doing. There's a manifest idea that we can do whatever we want to do, and who's gonna stop us? So at the same time that that's been going on, again, African Americans, and I've talked about this before, Africans who were living here were denied that same type of masculinity, denied the right to vote, to hunt, to protect themselves with the use of guns, etc. Right? So, we can think of all the different all the different rebellions that occurred with, because some of the men wanted to assert their manhood and their masculinity. So there was a constant threat. So given the time now that Anthony Mackie, and I'm assuming, and I'm comfortable saying this, the kind of masculinity that he as an African American male can assert is a very recent phenomenon, post 1968. Now, did they try, and I'm talking about legally assert, did they try to assert it at different times? Yes, the revolts and things along those lines. Even though in some places it was illegal to own a gun, little Derringers, Winchesters, things along those lines, they still owned them, and there was still, to think that we were just taking abuse is an incorrect way of looking at history. In fact, the way that we know history works, or the way that we know, well, let me say it like this. In fact, what we know is that many of the laws today concerning and guiding use or firearms stemmed from the 1960s and the Black Panther movement, in which those men who were asserting those, Bobby Seale and the crew, right? Bobby Seale and the boys and the others were asserting their manhood and masculinity and policing the police in their neighborhoods through the use of firearms and open carry and all that kind of stuff, taking advantage of all that. So that's a different story for a different time. A couple of books you should read about that is, I'll put them up on the screen. This one is this Black Power stuff, it gets you killed. And another one is, I can't remember the other name off the top of my head. But anyway, you should read those books. So anyway, this masculinity that Anthony Mackie is talking about is a fairly new phenomenon, a fairly new thing. So I want us to be very careful about that we don't become so adoptive of that. Malcolm X talked about this, being so inclined to be so American. You want to join the American system, Americanized. Now, we want to be American. We want to have the same rights as anyone else, but we want to have the same type of arrogance and bravado, and I'm saying those terms deliberately, that some others have had. And that's exactly what I think that Anthony Mackie was experiencing when he's talking about his time in Europe and his time in Kenya, when he's around other Africans, particularly in Kenya. Right? Their presentation, the way that they move, the way that they talk to their women, the way that they move in the world was different. And he didn't like it. And the reason, and here's what I really want to understand, that we in American society are under constant pressure. We acknowledge now that racism, we as a society, medical society included, acknowledge now that racism has negative affects on the human body. It's constant pressure. It's been blamed for different psychosomatic or somatic, or those things that happen mentally are then manifesting physically. So you got to understand that. So when you're dealing with high blood pressure, you're a man, you're dealing with high blood pressure, you're a man who's dealing with other issues, it's a result of the environment that you're living in. So to be a male, there's research, that's why I started talking about research, there's research talking about this, that males are under a lot of pressure. This is what they talk about: hypermasculinity, toxic masculinity, masculinity being a negative towards you. And I'm not saying that it is, but I am saying that we have to walk this balance. So if anything you get out of this talk right here, these little few words I'm going to say right now, next, should be it. It's about balance. If you can't go to another country and understand that you can relax, then there's an issue there. There's an issue there. Wear a Yankee hat a lot of times. Sometimes I wear a Detroit hat. I was on vacation one time, walking on the beach with a Yankee hat on, looking for a place to sit down, settle, order some food and all this kind of stuff. On vacation, another country. Brother's like, yo man, what's up, man? What hood you repping? Brother, it's just a hat. I live near New York. It's just a hat, brother. That, we take this American mindset other places. Another brother, we had gone on vacation. I'm not a big partier and stuff, but these dudes wanted to go to a club, and I remember telling this dude, man, he was getting dressed. I just had a t-shirt on. He's like, yo, man, he's like, we was trying to tell this dude, listen, nobody's dressing like that, man. You dress in the way that you are here because you're under pressure to impress. You're under pressure to impress and to stand out, the peacock. That wasn't there in other places. Wasn't there. So when he got there, he's like, he didn't believe us. Thought we was trying to put him, thought we was trying to trick him and whatever, spending all this money, trying to buy these people drinks and trying to. Got back, he's like, yo, man, I really wish I would have listened to y'all. And this is a hard thing to understand until you really get away from the environment that is driving your exact behavior. That's why I study with psychology, which is what it is. The environment and behavior. How the environment affects your behavior. There was a lady I was watching one time. She had talked about she had moved over to Belize. Pretty sure it was Belize. Belize or Costa Rica. I was watching her YouTube channel. She was a British lady, is a British lady, or was a British lady. She took an early retirement because she was stressed out. She went over there to Belize, and she was used to wearing red bottom shoes. She was used to flashing and flossing because she was a business corporate world, and this is the way it was. You gotta integrate into the corporate world. She went over to Belize, and at first she was like, what's wrong with these people? They don't care about this and that. They just live. I'm just not used to this. She said after, I don't know what the time frame was. Let's just say it was a short period of time, 3 months or so. She was dressing just like them, and she felt so much less stress. So that's what I want to emphasize for this. Anthony Mackie is right to say that we should be leaders, and his sons should be leaders at home, protect, provide, make sure the doors are locked. Hold the door open for women. That's all great. But when you go to another country, you go to another environment, and you're criticizing their lack of masculinity as it is presented to us, talking to y'all almost missed my exit. When that is, and you can't turn it off. I told you all about the cop. I know a lot of cops that just couldn't turn it off. Couldn't turn it off. And that's constant pressure. They tell you in the police academy, right? This is well known. All this stuff is well researched. You can't turn it off. This is causing you high blood pressure. You can't turn off your masculinity. You can't relax. You're hypervigilant, particularly as police officers. You're hypervigilant. Always going to sit with your back to the door. Always scouting out of rooms. Always scoping out a room. Always looking for this. Always looking for somebody's hands. You got to be able to turn that off. Told you about the lady who was always under pressure to live a certain way. So this thing that we're dealing with is real. So, we got to be able to turn that off. And as black men, we know we're under pressure from being men, the performance issue and all that. The performance issue. And then being black, the race issue. This is a double set of pressure. So, listen. Heed my words, heed the words of these stories I'm giving you, and there's research about this. In the show that I did about male loneliness, I talked about this, right? They're trying to deal with men in a certain way and understanding, right, there's different terms that these psychologists have come up with, and gender performance theory and things like that, right? You got to perform a certain way as in your gender. And if you don't, then you feel lacking, you feel inadequate, and you feel depressed, and all these other things that come along. So I want you to understand that. I want you to realize that, understand that, and then recognize that when you're on vacation or when you're off your job, here's what you can do today. I mean, I'm planning to leave the U.S. Right? It's my goal to leave the U.S. I want fresh food that's not baked in with a bunch of preservatives and all this. I want fresh island-grown food. I want to get away from the societal pressure. I teach at a bunch of these different universities now. I'm actually thinking about quitting some of them just so I can relax a little bit more, just so I can live and relax. I've done my time. My kids are raised. I can afford to go. That's the cost of living, right? Social media will drive you thinking that you always got to be in the grind. You always got to be grinding. You got to, not only social media, but American capitalism, the American way of life. Well, you always got to be grinding. You always got to be hustling. You can't ever take. I told you all this story before. Just one young lady was saying she's always hustling. She never feels like she want her man to be hustling just like her. She don't like it when her man takes naps, and she's like, if her man take a nap, right? She's like, what's wrong with this dude? You got to get it. She'll drive that man into the ground. And herself with him. Listen, don't let anybody drive you like that. And if you're that type of personality, there was been a few brothers at my job, man. They looked at their vacation time, never taking a vacation. I don't mean never, but 100+ days of vacation days sitting in the bank. It's not good. It's not good. So listen, yes, we should be leaders. We should be respectful. We should teach our children to be respectful. We should do whatever it takes to be a man and stand on your ground, stand in your square, to be assertive, to be dominant, not domineering, to be all this type of stuff. But at the same time, you got to have that balance that when you go on vacation, you vacate. When you're off work, you are off work. These jobs that are telling you to that they're allowed to call you after work, after hours. I hated that, man. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. If you cannot do it, I know, and they got us, right? Because I hired somebody else who will answer the phone after duty or not put in for overtime. Listen, this thing that President Trump and what I understand it was voted down by a bunch of Democrats and they're all up in arms. It's a trick. It's a trick to get you to tip money and overtime money. It's a trick. It's a trick. Now you'll work for tips. You'll work extra hours for tips without being taxed. You'll work overtime because it won't be taxed. It's a trick. You'll give more of your time. They'll give you the overtime because they don't got to hire somebody else and pay them benefits. You'll come in for more tips and give you whatever a waitress makes or whatever. $5 or $6 an hour instead of the 15 it'll be all, which isn't even enough anymore, whatever it is, Economics is not my strong suit. It's a trick. Take time off, enjoy your life, smell the roses. As much as you can, set yourself up to be able to do that. And again, your masculinity is more than your performance. Now, I'm not saying, again, I want you to understand there's a balance what I'm saying here. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a masculine male, speaking your mind and being who you are, paying for dates. I don't have a problem with any of that. I encourage that. A friend of mine was the other day was like, yo, I could see you wearing a sequence, whatever. A little, I don't know what it's called, sequence, that flashy, shiny fish scale looking stuff. I think that's the term for it. I'm like, could you imagine me wearing that? So I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with people who want to do it, but that's not Big L. That's not me. So, but when you're on vacation, when you're off duty, when you're whatever, vacate. Leave your phone at home. Don't answer phone calls, emails. And you'll see yourself start to relax, and you'll feel the pressure go down. You'll feel it go down. Men are under constant pressure to perform, constant pressure to perform. And if you're a black man, it's double pressure because you got racism. And now you think you got to perform even more. You got to be twice as good to get half as much, as the saying goes. So listen, I want to tell you all that. I want to drop that on you to listen to understand that, you know, this is what it is. I was on another vacation one time. I had met this. I was still working. Was a police officer, and I met this cop from. He was a retired lieutenant. I think he actually took an early retirement, if I remember. But anyway, he was definitely a retired lieutenant from New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans. This brother was telling me the story about he was on 3 different medications, blood pressure medications, couldn't get his medications under control. That's why I think he took an early retirement. Brother took the retirement. He had moved to an island, and his blood pressure magically, stress level was gone. Stress level. He's in a different environment, better food, not under the constant pressure of being a police officer. The racist, I don't know, you know, we didn't get into the racist issues that are going on down in New Orleans, if there were any. I'm just assuming, you know, being the South and all. So listen, that was what he was dealing with. That's what he was dealing with. And so now once he got away from that, his blood pressure was under control. It was under control. So listen, you know, there's a few other stories I have like that. Just guys with just taking care of themselves. I give you males and females, right, about this. So listen, while I applaud Anthony Mackie for what he was saying, understand also that you're, you know, if you notice that when you're in another place, he meant it as I noticed that these men are as masculinism, and then we got this American masculinism, and this is that American exceptionalism mindset. American exceptionalism, when anybody says that to you, what they're saying to you is that Americans are different, and that we can go around planting our seed wherever we want. And I mean that literally. Seed wherever we want. We can plant our flag wherever we want. You know, why do you think we got 700 plus, almost 800 military, whatever? Nobody even really knows, between the CIA black sites and stuff. Nobody knows how many bases we got across the world. Nobody knows the exact number. What's going on here? So listen, don't bother putting your signal on. So why do you think that, you know, that type of thing, and we got to keep up, we got to exert our dominance, we got to exert our will, not through the power of our ideas, but through our military force and might. This is crazy. And again, Malcolm X talked about this. We want to adopt this type of thinking, right? We want to adopt this type of thinking, and we're all doing it, whether we're doing it through the military sense or whether it's the consumer sense. We got to buy our way to this, buy our way to that. We got to have this, have that. Our educational attainment. All of this is a competition that we're constantly under. So I recognize that everybody can't move to another place. People have to live, support your children, give them the best opportunities, you know, build up your retirement. I get all that. I understand it. I'm obviously speaking for someone who's on the other side. But listen, when you are on vacation, vacate. That includes your mind. When you are away from your job on the weekends, etc., enjoy your time and understand that the environment will drive your sense of masculinity, and it's a deep problem within our psyche, and how how much pressure we put on ourselves. So I just want to drop that because I want to give the other side of the coin, that you know, and think about what that looks like to the people in the places. When Anthony Mack is in Kenya, you got this bravado American here, and he's proud of it. You're in Europe, and you got this bravado American. You ever been to Europe? And I've been there. Listen, there's some rude people. I'm telling you right there. I've never been cut so much in line in an airport, or just, I was going to see the Mona Lisa. You know, I'm in the Louvre, however it's pronounced. Walking through there, people just cutting each other. You stand there taking a picture of these different, huge, enormous paintings and stuff. People just standing in front of you, not saying excuse me. I think they're doing it because I'm a black man. They don't respect me. They're like, just rude. They're doing it to each other. Just rude. 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 But here you come as this bravado American, right? Saying something, this, that, and the other. Trying to help you all with your blood pressure. You all to live longer. All that kind of stuff. So, all right. I'll leave it out there. Balance. Balance is the name of the game. Much love and peace.